Welcome to the Curb Workshop and Curb TV. My name's Jack. I'll be your host today with my beautiful colleague Ollie, who'll come on the screen soon. Hello, Ollie. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
I spent the last week, well, the weekend really, dining out on the fact that I made this.
Oh yeah, your own little train timetable.
Timetable.
Where are you going to put that? By your front door, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
So
I'm very pleased with it.
It's very good. I've been kind of isolation baking. There was a point last week I was just like, I'm going a bit crazy. I need to do some baking, and that helped. So anyway, so on to today's show. We're going to be talking about one of the things that I end up talking about with traders the most, but also one of the things I get most excited about, which is menu design. So yeah, before we go on to that, if you want to support any of our traders, you can go to Keep the Wheels Turning or at curbfood.store and buy vouchers for their businesses for when they come back onto the streets. But yeah, I'll hand over to Ollie and yeah, go for it.
Thanks, Jack. So today we're talking about menu design and why it matters. Genuinely, I've worked for Curb for almost 7 years. Yeah, so like 7-ish years. And this is the first time my psychology degree has ever come in use. So
nice one.
Check this out. This is how the eye works. So at the front of your eye, you've got your lens, and that's the point that all light passes through. And when you're looking at something that's far away, it comes in a smaller angle, so it only has a tiny bit of the retina of what the thing you're looking at is. If it's closer, you get a bigger bit of the retina. So that's why if you're looking at something close up or it's big, you can see more detail in it than if it's far away or small. So that is the science behind the eye. And then when you look at a menu board, you can see exactly what I mean. So this is a picture of Taco Dave's menu. That is his menu board right there. And I reckon I was about 3 meters away from his stall when I looked at that.
Yeah.
And I don't think, even looking at this now, you can really read any of it. Here it is blown up. Could you tell that he was doing rice boxes? Could you tell that he was doing halloumi bun? Probably not. And that was when you're just standing 3 meters away. The one thing you can tell actually when you zoom in here is that he spelt blackened wrong.
But that's the point, right? You have to zoom in. You have to really search for like what this person is selling.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that time that someone's taking to make that choice, that decision, is a potential time that they could go somewhere else.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you a good example of a trader's menu board. This is Hamon. This is them at a private event, so there's no menu, there's no prices on the menu, but you can tell from that menu board what they're selling and what the ingredients are from quite a distance. And when you put them next to each other, you can see it's night and day between how clear Hamon's menu is and how hard it is to read Taco Dave's. I will say that picture of Taco Dave's menu was taken back in 2017, so he has got a lot better since then.
Yeah, it's definitely better.
I don't think he'll be too upset about me totally abusing him on this.
But that's one of the things, isn't it? Like people are always developing their menus, and until you physically put it onto something, you don't realize that something is too small, or you don't kind of realize how something needs to stand out to get people's attention.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just going to show you a clip by Tucker Burger of some of the kind of customers that you get when you're trading at a market and how they interact with your menu.
Cheeseburgers, chips. Okay.
What do you got?
Oh, yes. Yes, that looks good. Oh my god. Please stop looking at me. Yes. Ooh, cool. pretty flash interior. What's in it? Oh, lettuce!
Do you guys do hot dogs?
I mean, that genuinely, if you work on a store, that's exactly who you get. So I've got a theory that the closer that someone is to your store, the more likely they are to buy your food. I mean, it's obvious because if someone's walking towards your store, the closer they get, the more likely they're going to buy it. But I've called this thing the zone of awkwardness, right? This is where someone who is just browsing and hasn't committed to buying their food wants to make the decision before they approach you. So Taco Dave, once you start talking to him, he knows he'll be able to sell you a bit of food just because he's a very engaging personality and he can talk up the food. But customers are awkward, especially British customers. British customers are particularly awkward. Some will come up, talk to you, ask you questions, and then be happy to be like, actually, I'm all right, thanks. But on the whole, once you start talking to someone, they're going to want to buy the food because they don't want that awkwardness of you telling them what you're selling, what your business is, and you going like, actually, I don't want that at all. I don't value that at all, and then walking off. So people want to know what you're selling and how much it is from a distance because of this zone of awkwardness. So I think if you've got poor signage, it's less likely that someone far away will come and buy your food. But if you have good signage, that goes up. So it still increases as you're going along, but it's more likely that they'll buy food if you've got good signage. So in summary on how big your menu should be, I think all the bits on your menu should be readable from 3 meters away because customers are shy, but they're curious and they don't want the pressure of coming close to your stall because they know they're going to have to eventually spend money when they get there. And the further people are likely to stand away your stall, the bigger the menu should be. So if you're at a festival, it's very different to being at a lunch market. Say you're at West India Quay with us, people are probably maximum about 5 meters away from your stall. At a festival, people can be 50, 100 meters away. So you can see the difference between a Club Mex festival setup and a Club Mex market setup.
Yeah,
I would say don't bring the full festival setup to everything you do because you'll end up looking mental and it'll be so much work to bring like a huge scaffolding pole with everything you're doing and then this huge signage on the side.
Yeah. You just need to know your market basically, and you need to tailor it to that. And like for the markets that we run, you might have 8, 10, 12 traders, and so each one of those traders needs to project, like needs to try and stand out against others. And these are the kind of things you need to do to get that customer to get into the zone of awkwardness, as you said.
Yeah, it's Theo calls it the law of the jungle, where if you're like a bird of paradise in the jungle, you want to be doing that particularly fancy flappy dance to get people to notice you.
It's peacocking.
Yeah, that's it. That was another thing I actually learned in psychology.
Interesting.
But yeah, if you're at a festival, you're going to be there for a few days and you want to make as much money and attract as many people as possible. So be the biggest peacock you can be, I guess is what I'm saying. And then let's talk about branding and how your menu should be aligned with your brand. So I've got 2 pictures here of the same business. Your stall front is a prime bit of real estate. So you need to basically display everything about your business on the front of your stall because that's the bit that people see. So I would say looking at these 2 pictures of Humon, not only I would say is it clearer what people are selling on the right hand side picture, but your trust in the business, which has the exact same man making paella, the exact same pans, but I'd say the trust is better. You'd think it's got better quality. You'd probably think the food would taste better, and you'd probably say the guy on the right is definitely washing his hands. The guy on the left was washing his hands at the time, but you don't know that. But you're certain the guy on the right is.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you've got a quality food and a quality product, align that with what the store looks like.
And I think those two things, like trust and kind of authenticity, were important, like, you know, forever in terms of street food over the last 10 years, because of the like reputation of what street food has in terms of hygiene and things like that, but which is completely wrong. But also, as markets and stuff start opening, it's a really important way, an easy way to assure people that like what you're doing is the real thing, and make people like take that final step towards buying your product, like it's something I can trust.
Exactly, yeah. Now we're going to talk about pricing. So there are kind of two schools of thought, where some people think that if you make your price a little bit smaller, you could get people to be like hooked on the product because they like the sound of it, and then you could be like, oh, it's £10, and they're like, oh, well, I've already decided to have it, so I'm happy to spend £10. And then the other one is just massively displaying the price and making it very clear what it is, and making the customers know exactly how much they're getting in for. I would say 100% do the show your prices thing. Make it clear, very clear, like how much money someone's going to be paying for whatever you're selling. Because there's nothing worse than, they call it sticker shock, when you're in a shop and you take whatever you want to the counter, and then they go like, oh, it's £250, and you thought it was going to be £100, and you're like, whoa, not ready for that. And the same thing applies with street food as well. So I've got this is a picture of Hawksmoor's menu. Bear in mind, this is an expensive steak restaurant, and I don't have the data for this. I assume this is true. I reckon 75% of their sales are probably those fixed price steaks. And then the scary steaks that you have no real concept, even if they give you like the grammage of each steak, you're not going to get your phone out, and get a calculator out and work out exactly how much it is. You just want to know exactly how much you're going to be on the hook for and what you're getting from it. So definitely show your prices is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to, in terms of like branding your stall as well. The better your stall looks, the better your menu looks, the more assured that a customer can trust in the food and feel like that is a worthy price for that food. Like you're selling more of an experience when you brand the whole stall and the menu better.
Exactly, yeah. Simplicity. So I would say one of the first things that new traders do is they put a ton of things on their menu, because they might be trying different things out, which is totally fine. You can do that, but they haven't worked out how to sell to people really, and they think that providing tons of different options of what you could do, from like you could have a dish in a bun, you could have a dish in a wrap, you could have it on rice, you could have it on chips, you could have it as a salad box. People don't want that, honestly. I know it sounds like a good idea to cater for everyone's taste, but they want simplicity and they want you to do the decision making for you. So I would say some of our best traders are the people who sell 2 or 3 dishes, and they make it incredibly simple. You don't have to like massively change the dish, customize it for loads of different ways. There are some traders who do like custom bowls. Say it's like a poke trader. And actually, I think it's probably tougher for someone to order that because they don't know what the best one is. You do. Yeah. You've been making it.
You're the expert, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the idea, is like you're an expert in this dish or this series of dishes, and that's why someone is trusting you. That's why someone's going to, like, who's never tried your food before, is going to go, they look like the expert on X. I'm going to spend that £10-12.
Yeah. It's called buyer's remorse. You go to a restaurant with a friend, you order something which you thinks is going to sound good. Your friend orders something different, and both come and you see your friend's dish and you're like, oh, I wish I'd ordered that. And then you ask for a little bit and they go, we're not sharing. COVID. You can't anymore. So make it as simple as possible. This example of Smoke and Bones right here, I think you have to make 4 choices. Well, 4 and then 2. First one is like, which one of those 4 dishes do you want? And the second one is, would you like fries with that? And actually, when you're serving, say you're serving 100 customers, you might have 8 different decisions to make for each person. If you slim it down, you're getting through those customers a lot quicker. Hamon is the master of that. He just goes like, which one do you want? And it's all ready to serve, and he can get a portion out in 2 minutes. No, not 2 minutes, 2 seconds. So where should you put your menu? Really simple, up high and to one side. If you're feeling adventurous, you can just put it up high like Alibaba's has here. But it just makes so much sense. Make it so people can see, people don't get in the way of it. Here's an example of someone who I used to work for when this menu board came out. On the left, you can see the menu perfect. If Hugo moves slightly to the left or Hugo's twin joins him, you can't see a thing. So how do you know what they're selling? That's maybe why he added the big burritos sign at the top to know what they're selling. And then another thing is a lot of people are very keen to put loads of information on their board, loads of stuff about how their business is run, where they source their meat from, like exactly how it was produced, all that kind of stuff. And this is probably not the best thing to say, but a lot of people don't care. A lot of people just want to get food and get out and go home. But there are people who do care, and you care. So put it up there because it's an amazing place to brand your business and tell people about the deeper things about your business.
Yeah.
Here's an example from Lily from Steakhouse. She's talking about why in this time of sustainability, of focus on sustainability, can you be selling beef when people should probably be pivoting to doing vegan or vegetarian dishes?
Yeah.
But she's given a really good explanation, and then the person who's actually engaging with that will be like, oh great, well I'm happy to come back there. And you'll probably get people to be regulars with you more likely because they understand a bit more of the context of your whole business. But stick it on a separate board.
Yeah. And I think it depends on what your business is, like what the specifics of, and there might be something different that you need to just describe to people. So for someone like Lily, it's the kind of ethical idea of still eating meat. Whereas for someone like Hop and Roll, who was on our incubator program recently, if someone didn't know what a hopper was, she'd have to explain it and then explain that there were 5 or 6 elements to that dish. But what she did was got a really nice illustration that was right near the menu. A, it looked really good, but B, very quickly, someone in the queue could actually look at it and understand exactly what it is and then make a choice very quickly on what it was.
Yeah, great example. Another good Yum Bun do the exact same thing with the fillings of their bows. Great example. And then you can talk about other information that you might want to put on your stall. You also do private events, you take card, you have a website, you can do social media, you might have a hashtag. You want people to order and collect from different places. You might have a slogan. Don't know what that would be. And obviously you need to be displaying that you know about allergens. But it's free real estate, so do whatever you want with it because it's your stall. Work out where the best place to put stuff is. Make it so people can see and constantly change it. Come up with a brand that's consistent, but constantly experiment where you're putting your different things. Because I would say no one nails it from the start and then continues to do that from day one until now. Yeah. Actually, Lily from Steakhouse, fair play to her. She's kept the same frontage almost from the start, but she nailed it from the start.
Yeah, it's constant improvement. And, exactly. You know, you've got to start with something. And even if that is starting with something that's like a chalkboard because you haven't decided exactly what you want to do with your menu, just work on making that as quick and clear and concise, and then just go from there.
Yeah. And so, in summary, make it big, make it simple, make it beautiful, put it up high, be clear with your pricing, and you can also use it to tell your customers about your business.
Great.
And that is how to design a menu board. Hopefully,
It's amazing. It's genuinely one of the things I get excited most about when we have traders on our markets, especially new traders who are working to that point. And then when they get that new menu, and all of a sudden you see so many more people going to that stall and like asking about the food and ordering the food, and then it just becomes like touching so many other points of the business. Like, oh man, so many more people are coming to eat our food now. Now we need to improve this bit. Now we need to change that bit. Now we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. It like a good menu shows the potential of your business.
yeah. And the people who get it like right from the start and or constantly improve it definitely see a massive uptick in their sales, like more so than they probably assume they would get from investing in a good menu board.
Yeah.
We've been given a question from Dan Black on Facebook.
Oh, cool.
He said, not sure if you covered this, but what about color combinations of menu and text? I would say try and keep on your brand, basically, but also try and do like a high contrast, like background color to foreground color. So if I was to go back to Smoke and Bones, you can see using the yellow and brown, you can see that from quite a distance. Even when it's brown on yellow, the contrast between the yellow and brown is far enough that it's very obvious. And I've got good eyesight. Imagine if you don't have good eyesight, and you've got two colors that are too close to each other, probably wouldn't work.
I think also if you're doing it yourself, then definitely get other people's opinion. But if you're working with a graphic designer or someone who's artistic or whatever, basically ask their advice. Like they're the kind of things that they know about and they understand. And so they'll be able to say, oh, if we do white on black, it'll kind of do this, but if we do black on white, it'll kind of do that. Basically, trust a creative's opinion.
Exactly. And if you're interested about where you could get a similar sign to what Smoke and Bones do, check out Fundy Signs on Instagram. Charlie from Fundy makes signs and they're beautiful. Great.
Okay. Thanks, Ollie. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
So we're going to now bring on our next guest. So we started doing our Curb Bootcamp series about 2-3 weeks ago with Carly. We had Joe last week from Schmo's Deli, and today we've got Sean all the way from sunny Brighton talking about his street food business, Fumar Cozinha. How are you?
Hey, how you going?
So thanks for applying, and how was that? Was that helpful talking about menu design?
Yeah, it was quite interesting listening to him talk about stuff like that, and also adding to a list of things to get organised for when we reopen as well. It's like, okay, now I get, you need to get the gazebo, you need to get the signs done, you need to get but it's like you said as well. It's all about you got to start off with something, and then you can build from there. You can add, improve things, and but I just quickly wrote that down before I came on. Fundy signs.
Well, we can definitely give you the links to the street food starter pack as well, where we've got loads of information on all those things. So you kind of applied with a Portuguese street food barbecued concept that you kind of started working on. Can you tell us a bit about like what your background is and how it led to Fumar Cozinha?
Okay.
What's the inspiration?
A couple of years ago, I worked in the Algarve. I got recruited down to a resort down in the Algarve because I'm a chef.
Yeah.
It's good to travel with my experience, and it's where I met my wife. We worked down there for 6 months, and just we're like, I guess for the next couple of years, like once or twice a year, going to Lisbon. To see her family and sampling all their food and stuff. It started to kind of get me a bit more of an interest in Portuguese food, and also I think it's quite underrated.
Yeah,
it gets
not as well known as Spanish food, and
it gets it's kind of hides behind. Spanish food is quite loud. I've always had an interest in barbecue. not just because I'm Australian, but also I worked at the Hawksmoor, where I used to do I ran the fish section there. So using the Josper grill and getting quite addicted to using charcoal grills and stuff is kind of
it's exciting and loud and kind of chaotic, all the things that chefs love, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And also with charcoal grills and stuff, barbecues like that, it's not just a turn on, temperature. You can turn it up, you can turn it down. It's not like an oven or a stovetop. It's almost like a living thing. You got to feed it. You've got to you start to notice the temperature starts to drop in certain spots. So you got to put charcoal there. You got charcoal here, and then it's getting too hot. And then when coming back from the Algarve, I got a job working for Smokestack when Smokestack opened their restaurant in Shoreditch. So when he obviously would transition from street food to
Bricks and mortar,
into a restaurant. So I got to do the grill there, and that's the first time I'd ever used an Argentinian grill.
Okay.
And doing like the pork ribs, the beef ribs, and then so from that kind of instilled the love for barbecue smoked meats, and then just from then on, I was trying to come up with a way of, because with barbecue meats, I always find barbecue meats to be like American barbecue. It's always very specific. It's just meat, sauce, pickles, fry. Yeah. But I always found maybe it's the chef brain, but smoked meats I thought they could play a role in other cuisines, not just in American barbecue.
Yeah.
So I just tried to start thinking of ways that I could do smoked meats in other cuisines. And then I had the idea for, so one of the things I love getting when I'm in Lisbon is it's called a risoles. It's it's a pastry. It's a savoury pastry. It's the pork one called leitão. So it's they have specific kitchens that cook the suckling pig a certain way.
Yeah.
And then the way they prep the meat and stuff, it goes inside this pastry. It's this pastry and it's crumbed, and it's just a deli snack that all cafes have them. But I always loved them, and so I was like, I gotta. So then I just had the idea. I'm like, what would be, I wonder what that would be like if you made it with pulled pork, like smoked pork. And then just from then on, I've been doing I've done a lamb one, I did a pork one, and also playing around with vegetarian ones as well, because Portuguese cuisine doesn't really cater much for vegetarians.
Yeah.
It's just
chips.
Whereas with Brighton's if you don't have a vegetarian or if you don't even have a vegan option, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, because 50% of people down here are vegans or vegetarians. So so it's trying to come up with the different vegetarian ideas as well.
So you've been trying to kind of that Portuguese influence on a style of cooking that you love to do, which is barbecue and smoked meats, and kind of melding both of those things together. So I know you work at a restaurant in Brighton that kind of specializes in seafood, and you've done one pop-up so far, right?
Yep.
How did that go? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was good fun. I spent a lot of time trying to, I guess, kind of sitting on the fence, wanting to do a pop-up, but also not knowing is the food good enough? And how do you do that? I've worked in a number of different restaurants, and I've done festivals and stuff as well, but doing your own thing, and then to go into someone else's kitchen with food that you haven't necessarily done before. Because I hadn't made any of the dishes that I was going to do that night. I was I knew how it was going to happen. But it was just throw caution to the wind and just booked it. And luckily my brother was over from Australia that week, so he did the front of house part, and I could just left him in the mix. So it's just okay, you take care of that. I don't know how that's going to work, so you do that, and I'm going to do this. And my wife's a chef as well, so she was quite happy to get involved as well. She hasn't been able to work in kitchens for a while. With our daughter, but so she was pretty keen to jump on board, and But yeah, it was like it was a lot of fun, and like it ended up just being I think maybe like cooked for about 6 people, so it wasn't it wasn't profitable. I think I made as much money, maybe a little bit less than what I spent on it. But that was you'd be a bit naive to think that you were going to make
I think that's the minority of people who, like, the first time they do something is like a riveting success. They make £1,000. Like,
the
most important thing is like just getting out there and doing it. So I think that's a really good point to bring in our next guests, Josh and Lucy, who are going to bring in now. So, hey guys.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. So for anyone who doesn't know, Josh and Lucy run Ink and Bill or Beak, have stalls at Camden Market, which obviously are closed at the moment, but also Ink in Seven Dials Market. And I was gonna just kind of piggybacking on what I was talking about with Sean. What was your experience like on your first markets when you started with Bill or Beak?
I think Ollie will definitely know about this as well. Our first experience, we just had no idea kind of what to buy. We had no money and we had no idea what to buy. So these workshops weren't really available back then. And so we went out and we did actually buy quite a good gazebo, quite like a sturdy. That's what we spent our money on. And then we bought these kind of like wobbly wooden tables from Argos. We had no weights. We had these like cheap sandbag weights. And we had this tiny little sort of like camping stove thing that we cooked we reheated our pulled meat on. And I can remember we had our first day at King's Cross, and Ollie was like, "You guys ready? Like, this is your sort of debut." And we just completely, like, there was so much wind. We didn't have weights. The queue was like 80 people deep because we were new. And people were just like, "Oh, cool! Like, what's this new food? This is great." And yeah, it was just a complete experience, and just kind of like we were just really pony, like we just had no idea really what
loading everything into like a Renault Clio. So basically, our signage that you were talking about, our signage that we created went across the whole top. But we only had a Renault Clio, so we had to close the boot, but it stuck out of the passenger side window all the way across. So yeah, it was.
I think we got stopped by the police once.
Yeah, we got stopped by the police once. They were like, "This is ridiculous." What are you doing?
Was that when you were like carrying a fryer on your lap or something in the car?
Probably, yeah.
Probably. Yeah, like a domestic fryer that you would have at your house, but obviously the oil wouldn't cool, and we didn't have anything to carry it. So you put it on the passenger side footwell and just hope and pray that basically you didn't go around. So you'd have to like go around corners slow so that the oil didn't go on the floor. But if it did go on the floor, then you'd obviously have to clean all of that up. So it was really interesting. Come a very, very long way.
So I think that's quite interesting because Sean seems to have had quite a lot of experience with like street food traders who've like had brick and mortars, but now he wants to do his own thing and he's starting on the street. So I asked him to give a couple of questions before. So one of the questions Sean, you asked me about gas or electricity, like what you should do, like how you should start with. Do you have Lucy, Josh, do you have any advice on that topic?
I think personally, I would definitely always go, definitely have your gas set up, because then you can just trade anywhere and you don't need to rely on someone setting you up with electricity. But the kind of longer that you get into the game, you will start doing private events, which are quite lucrative, and they're set portions, they make you good money, and they're quite fun doing them as well. And I think most of the venues that you will be trading in will be only electric, so you'll only be able to use electric stuff in there. So for me personally, we started with a few electric, a few bits of gas. We didn't really know what we were doing.
Because electric's normally cheaper, so you are like normally drawn towards that, but then you start going to places and there's you like to be able to cater for say 100 people. It's not just a domestic fryer which has got a 13 amp plug. You need 16 amp and higher, and you don't normally find those unless it's in a good private estate or something like that where they've got that capacity. So gas just gives you more versatility to be able to do these kind of things. But then, as Lucy said, if you then go into the event kind of catering, where it might be indoors, but they want that street food kind of vibe, instead of you'd maybe pre-do your barbecue. So maybe pre-cook the meat, you might then have it and then vat pack it, sous vide it, and then you need to bring it back up to temperature or something like that, where you need for the water bath or something like that. Then you can cut it. So you're still giving the flavor of that kind of experience, but actually you're just removing sort of the rustic kind of elements to it, but you're still giving the flavor. So it's dependent on what angle you're going to enter the marketplace and where you want to be. If you wanted to go to the streets, theatre is what people want, and the theatre is going to be the smoke, the flames, and that's where the gas is going to come for me more into.
But then when you've got to get 500 portions out in an hour, you can't be faffing around with barbecue.
Definitely. Yeah, because I was thinking about that yesterday, when I was trying to come up with these questions, I was like, what don't I know already that people who obviously in the know are going to know? And that was the one thing I was thinking. I was like, well, like you said, barbecue is good for theatre. But if you're doing keeping it managing your stock level is one thing, but the actual physical ability to be able to do that many. I did a festival with Smokestack, the London Night Market, and they had every night it was always a queue of for an hour. People were waiting for an hour to come and order. And my whole job was sitting in front of this Argentinian grill, doing barbecue, just doing the ribs, and from 5:30 all the way till midnight. My barbecue could never be any less than full of ribs, because you would never keep up. People would then they'd wait an hour, they'd order and pay, and then they'd go and stand and wait in front of you for 20 minutes because you would still trying to move this stock. But I guess it's about not necessarily just managing the stock levels, knowing how much to bring. It's also the ability to be able to provide.
Fine line.
I think it's great that you've had the experience of the kind of situation where you've seen a queue for an hour and then to 20 minutes waiting. But it's amazing to aim high and to be thinking about those kind of things. But the reality is that the first day we ever traded, I think we formed a queue of our friends, and we had real friends, and then there was 2 real people. So it's amazing that you've seen, but there will be that natural progression to be able to get to that kind of thing, and the infrastructure and the logistics, you'll work that out along the way. But I think the main thing to get people in at the beginning, to go to the primary question, would probably be the gas. Have that theatre, have that understanding, and you'll learn from there how to then build it up. And it might be back a house, you're then right, actually, I sold out today. How can I then change that? And it might be that basically you then have a secondary kitchen kind of situation where you would maybe part prep, say, the brisket or the smoked meats or something like that, and then you just go to finish it on the grill. And then it just means that you don't have that whole cook process in front of people, which is the long thing.
I think it's also it's good to start thinking about where is it you want to take this concept. Even if the goal in 3 years' time is to have a bricks and mortar restaurant in Brighton or something, it informs what you do from the beginning, because that is part of telling an amazing story and saying for example, let's say you started out with a Josper grill on the streets, finishing off those barbecued meats. When you start then doing pop-ups and private events and that first pub residency for a month or stuff, you can keep telling that story of those things that you've been cooking, that you've been eating. And is there a goal that you have, Sean, that you want to get towards? Because they have these little bars in Lisbon that I was trying to remember the name of it before, but the Portuguese word for their tapas version is petiscos, and so they're just small plates, small things you eat while you're drinking. And so I always had the idea that it would be good to have something like that, because it's I guess for 2 reasons. One, it's fun, and you kind of always have to with food. It's always good to pair it with its suitable drinking style. For people to have after work or whatever.
But also like you don't want to, like if you, I guess it's like the knowing how big your team needs to be able to achieve something bigger, and being aware of like what staffing levels are like in the industry at the moment. It's like you don't really want to plan to open up a 200-seater restaurant when you know that it's quite hard to find competent chefs.
Yeah.
So I thought like it would be good to have something that's small. Like one of the best restaurants in Brighton is this place called the Little Fish Market, and it's only a stone's throw from being Michelin starred, but it's just run by like a husband-wife combo, and the husband, he's the chef, and it's only just him. Like he has like a commie dishwasher that helps out on the weekends, but he does the whole thing by himself. And so like, obviously devastating because I would have loved to have gotten a job there, but being aware of like what it's like to try and find competent chefs is quite difficult. So I just thought if you could start off with something that's small that I could do by myself with like one or two other people for the front of house and maybe someone to help me out. It's probably going to be a lot more achievable than trying to aim for quite a big, like a bigger kind of restaurant.
And I think like by starting with street food, what you can do is you create that hero dish, like that's something that you're known for that like no one else is doing in Brighton or wherever you choose to trade, and then that's part of your story, and you can then take that on to when you do slightly bigger things. Or imagine like 3 years time and you have this kind of place that you're dreaming about, and the thing that every single person orders when they come into your restaurant is the thing that you started with, like making. That's very similar to kind of what Lucy and Josh have done with like their calamari. Would you say that's right? Like you kind of something you start. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's actually massive value in exactly what you're saying. Creating this kind of small little sort of like, there's only one of them kind of little restaurant. I think there's way more value in that these days. I think people are kind of bored of people kind of like just like big chains and stuff. I think there's much more kind of value in that. And if you can definitely champion like a dish or a couple of dishes that people almost come like emotionally attached to, they're like obsessed with, and they have to just come to your restaurant and they'll bring all your friends to your restaurant. I think there's huge value in that, definitely. And I think that's kind of what we did do with our calamari as well. We just started off just doing the calamari, and we just found that you couldn't really get really great calamari in, like, I'm sure you can get some good calamari in London, but I think the Shoom was like the only place that we sort of had it, that we really, really enjoyed it. And so we focused on this kind of baby squid type dish with kind of coriander and Szechuan pepper. We kind of just revamped it a bit, which is kind of what you're doing with your idea. It's kind of mixing kind of a few different cuisines together, creating like just a dish that no one's really done. And I think that's definitely a really good way to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like a good way, because then because like if people come to your street food place to have your dish, so when we start up a little restaurant, then you obviously then have to keep that going, so people are going back for that as well. Like Smokestack and his brisket bun. Yeah,
exactly. He's done it really well, and he's nailed it, and the quality's great, and it's just that it's a Smokestack brisket bun.
Yeah,
so you can kind of do that with one of your dishes. I think there's so much value in it.
Yeah, exactly. Sweet.
So I think Sean, you're also asking like lots of like logistical questions, and that's definitely something Lucy and Josh have had experience with, from a Renault Clio and a fryer in the front. Like, do you have a van? Do you have a car? Like, have you kind of planned that stuff out already, or are you kind of just not really sure where to start with?
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Like when doing pop-ups, it's easy just to do. You just I just packed everything into a couple of little styrofoam boxes and Ubered it to the cafe. But I was thinking, like, if you've got a barbecue, moving a barbecue, you're going to have like a pretty decent sized car to transport that, because obviously it's going to be hot, and like you said with the fryer, it's like it's going to be hot for a while. like even when I did the pop-up, I left my fryer at the cafe and picked it up in the morning because it was like, I'm not going to try and move this now. But yeah, when you're talking about like if I've got a barbecue or a grill of some kind, charcoal grill of some kind, that's going to stay hot for a bit. So like I was starting to like imagine like, you know, what kind of vehicle you're going to need to get, and yeah, and also like keeping that equipment, all that equipment that you've got to like that you have to transport to and from pitches, like if you've got an apartment,
where do you put stuff basically?
Yes. So like when we started, we kept everything in the flat. So we literally used to unload the car, bring everything back into the flat. It was then just everywhere, and then obviously back out. So it's depending on how much equipment you have. I think the moment that we moved everything out of the flat, it was a game changer. We started basically like the community is quite great in the respect of we brought our problem to a couple of people and they were like, oh, I've got this little place where you could store this kind of thing, and we all share this kind of unit, and you pay like £150 per month and you could just put your stuff there. You then also have other storage places. There might be someone that's got a little garage that they just don't use. It's depending on how often you're going to need to access that. So that's the main thing. If you're only doing a market once a week, you might not need a van. You could literally use a zip van, make sure that you've booked it on the app before you drive to the little lockup thing, you get it. If you've got place at the bottom of your garden, you could get a shed little thing at the bottom of your garden if you've got access to it. It's really dependent on what you're needing and how often you're needing to use it, because you want to make it as easy as possible. The thing is, you can come in with this thing with so much enthusiasm, but it is a physical kind of, it's a physical thing. So if you can remove as much physicality from it, that will keep you as motivated as possible. So it's just forward thinking about these little things, you know, like, so it's really, really dependent. But I was even just thinking now that you've been doing these pop-ups and stuff like that, at this point, so we have a unit and we're not utilizing or using it at this particular time, and we're like we might need to do deliveries or Deliveroo or something like that from it at this moment in time. But with your equipment and what you've got, like there are pubs, there's so many things that are not being utilized at this moment in time. I don't know about your community. If you've got a local pub that's got a kitchen or something like that, ask the landlord, be like, look, you're not using your kitchen. Can I pay you 50 quid a week at this moment in time? Could I do delivery as a dark kitchen out of here to be like utilizing and using your stuff?
And also like there's loads of schools as well that have kitchens that you could basically just test some dishes on your local community so that you don't have to like get all of this equipment, take it out on the street. Like hopefully someone might come and buy it. You just don't know. So I definitely think working in schools and like separating the work from the home is like really, really important and will continue to motivate you and probably make you go on for longer.
And I think it's just about finding within your community, like I don't know how like aware or in the kind of street food scene in Brighton, like I don't really know much about that scene, but once you kind of start penetrating that a bit more, you'll find that a lot of the issues and challenges that you're finding other people have had as well. Like, you know, don't want to store everything in their little flat, you know, kind of need somewhere to prep things and do things and kind of come together. And that's kind of what why we have a Slack channel for like anyone involved in street food, and lots of people make connections there. And so it's about like kind of looking in your community and seeing where people are sharing spaces and people want to help each other out, you know. See that all the time.
There's loads of people we know. So where we are, we've got like it's an industrial estate and it's great. And there's quite a few street food traders within it. Mother Flippers that next to us. We've got Tongue and Cheek, Luxury Flats. There's like 5 street food traders within basically 5 industrial spaces. But then in Deptford, which is like half a mile down the road, we've got people that have taken whole railway archways, and there's like 5 of them in one archway because it's so big. So it's like, it's really like, but you only know that because everyone's speaking. And also it takes one person that's got enough revenue to be like, I can take this on my own, but they're always going to be like, well, I only need 1 fryer there and that there and that there. I've got space for 5 more. I know. And then it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah needs this. And it's like, well, come and use it. It's going to make my rent less. And it means that I don't have to be pushing and turning over as much cash to just keep this for myself. So exactly what Jack said. I think, you know, you're already within the food industry within Brighton. I'm sure you wouldn't have to scratch too deep to be able to find someone that would have an opportunity for you to be able to pounce upon, and actually cost too much to be able to do so either.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea actually. I guess all the other chefs that I know around, like one mate's already for my pop up. I borrowed his because he has a restaurant. I borrowed his plates for the pop up because he has better plates than the cafe. So, and he let me use fryer, and I guess it's good because that's what I always liked about in London, the London street food. All the vendors and stuff, it's like one big community. Like everyone's like they all help each other out and stuff. Even though technically they're competitors, like they're still kind of like band together and help them if they can.
Yeah. So do you, Sean? I just wanted to ask: do you have like one last question for Lucy and Josh that you wanted to ask them before we kind of wrap up today?
I think. Where have I got? I guess it's the only thing that holds me back is that it's taken that leap of faith. So, for someone who's already done it, it's how hard do you have to push yourself to make that jump? Because because I have like me and my wife and my 2-year-old daughter, so I've got a little bit riding on my income. So it's a little bit puts a little bit more pressure on me to perform. But that's also a motivator.
I personally think, for me personally, the best thing for you to do in this current situation that we're in, I think you kind of got this Corona situation as a positive because everyone's just desperate for good food and delivery and that kind of stuff. I think you can absolutely test your product around your community. So you could basically speak to someone about maybe not renting their kitchen, but like maybe if they're not paying any rent themselves, maybe you could just be like, look, can I just borrow your kitchen for a couple of weeks? And test out some of my dishes and feed people around your community, and then maybe you could start getting on Deliveroo and just sort of delivering them and seeing how they work and just testing your concept essentially.
Yeah, like so many people who enter, like with any business, if they're changing direction, but especially with street food businesses, they look at it as like part-time. They take it part-time. So, they do start doing a Sunday market because they're working Monday to Friday, and then they need a day to prep and then do it. So kind of, I think that approach of like just doing a little bit and everyone's at home right now. So if there's a dish that you think could be your hero dish, could be the thing that you're known for, knock up 20, 30 portions of it and give it to people in your neighborhood and see what the feedback's like, see what people think. And that's one of the most amazing things about food and sharing food with other people is that you never know who that person is. Like you never know the connections that person that is coming up to your stall, and we have so many stories of like, oh, this person came and tried my food. Oh, they work at Dinorama. Oh, they've offered us a place at Dinorama. Done. Like just from simple relationships. Relationships are important in any business, but especially in terms of food. And so I think, like Lucy was saying, now's like a kind of a blessing to kind of figure out exactly who you are and share it with people.
I think as well, like to answer your primary question, we were quite in a fortunate position in the respect of like when we started this, we were like 24, 25. But to give context, like Lucy had just finished uni. I'd worked in a cafe for 6 months and basically saved up like £5,000. We moved to London with £5,000. We paid the deposit for the flat. Neither of us had a job. Lucy worked, at Jamie's in like Angel part-time. And we just pushed. We just literally threw everything we could at it. And I think that's basically the thing, more than anything. But obviously you have to put into context what you need out of your life and what's important to you. And obviously there are always going to be boundaries to be able to have to like cross. But I think now could be a really, really good opportunity to be able to throw yourself 100% at this kind of situation and really try and give it a go. And exactly what you said, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes that fear is that motivation in which you need. And if you've got a safety blanket, then you're always going to be like, well, I'm going to be caught. I'm going to be caught. Sometimes if you remove that, that's what gives you that cutting edge to be able to like work that little bit extra, try and get that extra connection. Who's that? What's that? All of those things. So that would like, yeah, that would be my biggest advice to you is, you know, you seem like a really, really incredible person. You've gone out, you went over to Portugal, you did those things. The worst thing that's going to happen is it doesn't work. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. And then you're going to throw yourself back into what you knew before. And like, all I'd say to you is just go for it. And I promise you, if you put in the energy that I can see that you've got, it will work. But you just go for it.
And also, I think you've got great experience in where you've worked, and you're also a chef. Like, not that like you have to be a chef to do this, but we're not chefs at all. We just love food. I think you've really got it on your side, and if the food's great, people will always come back. Like, if the emotional attachment that they'll have with your food will bring people back all the time. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's amazing advice, and thank you so much. Like, yeah, it's I'm like pumped. I'm like ready to go. On the street.
Go Sean.
Do it. Thank you so much for joining us, Lucy and Josh. I might pass on your email to Sean if you just want some extra advice. And thank you so much.
See you later.
So, Sean, how was that? Was that helpful?
Yeah, it's good. I was just trying to while they were talking, I was just kind of trying to scribble some things down just to remind myself later, because you get kind of caught up in the conversation and the hype, and then you know, like 10 minutes later, I would have forgotten everything.
The good thing for you is that you can rewatch this if you want to.
Oh, yeah,
so it'll still be on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I think there's a lot of scope for you to do something. Like, you've already started with a brand, you have a story, like you're a chef with a chef's background, which is a massive plus. Like, you don't have to do that to be in street food, but it certainly does help. And I think like using your community and the people around you, and when things like start going back to normal or become the new normal, then it's like every food and drink establishment is going to be trying to find ways to get people to come in and like tackle those nerves and that anxiety. And so, you know, even maybe like suggesting to the place where you currently work, like doing a pop-up on a day, like one day a week or one day a month, just might bring a different type of customer in. Like, use the connections that you have.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me on. It's been good.
I'm glad. If you haven't already, you can join our Slack community via the Street Food Starter Pack, which which we'll share a link to, and we'll check in with you in a couple of weeks and see what's happened. I'm really excited to, maybe at some point 2020, come and try some of your food.
Yeah, sweet. Right. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay. So yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Sean. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So yeah, another Curb workshop and bootcamp. Really enjoyed that. Maybe I'll get Ollie back on to the screen. Thanks,
Hello.
Ollie.
I've been hiding, sneaking away.
Did you enjoy that?
Really good. I think Lucy and Josh are incredibly passionate about street food and wanting to help people out.
Yeah,
it's lovely to hear.
And I think we tackled like lots of different things in that, you know, like, you know, where your story is, how to use your community, like, and how to take that final step, like accepting that fear and kind of just running with it. And it's a big thing. Like, it's very common. Like, most people have that fear and that kind of taking that leap of faith, and using the community you have around you to help with that is really important. Yeah,
some people, it's called a risk profile, isn't it? Some people have a higher tolerance for risk, some people have a lower one. I'm very risk averse. That's why I've stayed in the same job for 6 years. But I also really enjoy it, so that's a good thing.
Well, you've helped lots of people be less risk averse, so maybe we see it that way.
That's true. Yeah, I've vicariously lived through all the traders that have come through Curb.
What a delicious way to live. So thank you very much for your workshop today, and for anyone who's watching, thank you for staying with us. We have a show on Thursday where we're going to be talking to a couple of traders. I think we're going to be doing a tour of a soda factory. Is that right?
Yeah, go and see Square.
We're going to be doing a lot lockdown lunch with one of our traders, Nigel from Hanoi Kitchen, and some other delectable delights. So see you on Thursday, and as ever, you can join us on curbfood.store to support our traders. Just there. I always get it wrong. There we go.
I thought do the opposite then, and I got it straight away.
I always do it wrong. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Have a good week.